while phenomenologists such as Heidegger's mentor Edmund Husserl were illuminating the mind's inner machineries, Heidegger thought that philosophers ought rather to focus on the average person's commonplace world experience. This certainty directed him to author his chef d'oeuvre, the solid, redolent, oddly phrased text known as Being and Time. At the core of Being and Time, and hence of Heidegger's entire thinking, is a deceivingly modest query. What does the verb to be truly mean? We claim we know what we mean when we say that something is. But do we actually? Or do we, as Heidegger believed, let the word's very familiarity befog us, blinding us to the very utmost of mysteries? For Heidegger, space is a nearly unimportant category. Time is an enigma, and human existence and time are inseparably connected. Our being, says he, is actually a process, a development, a becoming. This acumen presses Heidegger to deny any notion of an immutable, mortal essence. Positing man's own existence as that which comes first, he demonstrates that the hoary Aristotelian essence of man as the rational animal is but an abstraction.
Do we in our time have an answer to the question of what we really mean by the word being? Not at all. But are we nowadays even perplexed at our inability to understand the expression being? Not at all. Our aim in the following treatise is to work out the question of the meaning of being, and to do so concretely. Our provisional aim is the interpretation of time as the possible horizon for any understanding whatsoever of being.
Existence for Heidegger is an act of stretching, of extending, whereby we continually protract and project ourselves into a future, pregnant in a sense, forever anticipating things, eagerly wanting things. Drawn onward, up front of ourselves, we are pulled purposefully into projects that we undertake, elongated into determinations that we attempt to achieve. When the work was published in 1927, Heidegger became an overnight celebrity, gaining major philosophy status at the quite young age of 39. Within but a handful of years, however, he would evermore smear his reputation by launching on a ruinous political exploit. A megalomaniac, to be sure, Heidegger thought that he could and ought to fill the role of the philosopher king to Hitler and the Third Reich. He genuinely believed that if Deutschland would get just the right philosopher, the nation could be galvanized, Europe could be invigorated, and all could be magnificently transformed. Certain of his own capability to philosophically navigate the revolt in what he envisioned as the correct route, Heidegger became not just a party member, but a Nazi zealot, someone ready to prove his dedication to the cause by the most cunning and nefarious means. Ultimately, Heidegger was chastened for his doomed Nazism liaison. But then after an extremely low ebb, which included a suicide attempt, a sanitarium admission, and a 5-year suspension from teaching, he returned to the mind's verve, his thought moving in time toward poesy and language, the true place to find one's relationship with history and with being. It is not we who speak language, says Heidegger, but language which speaks us. It cobbles up our world. It structures our kinesthesia of time. It composes our sense of individuality, of personal relations, of love, of bloodshed. Hence, when Foucault remarkably says there is no more author, and when deconstructionism conveys language as a self-directed inner turning game or avocation, a tango around an infinitude of potential meanings, these are Heideggerian postscripts. When Heidegger died in 1976, it was the savant who was memorialized in the eulogies and not the Nazi. However, as a greater extent of his Third Reich participation has bobbed up, a distressing reappraisal of his place in the history of philosophy has ensued. Certainly there are plenty of instances of dreadful people having authored thought-provoking tomes. In the end, it well may be that Heidegger is but a bewildering case of an otherwise brilliant man who, having staggered into a situation out of which he lacked the constitution to extricate himself, petrified himself in a snare of his own making.